Hello everyone and welcome to our third class about Cinema 4D. Just keep in mind, such in case you didn't complete the first two classes, so please be sure to go to my channel on YouTube, which is Whiteboard, and to go to playlists and select the playlist called Cinema 4D for Course. Learn Cinema 4D English language. Okay, just be sure to complete the first two sessions before completing this one. Just to stay aligned with the course sequence of videos and lessons. Okay, today we are going to talk about the objects, how to create and add a new object to my scene or my viewport right here. By going to this icon, click and hold, you have a sub-menu here with all available mesh objects, such as cube, plan, polygon, capsule, figure, oil tank, platonic, torus, Bezier tube, and here is another one, but we are not going to use it today, which is empty polygon. Pyramid, tube, landscape, cone, sphere, disk, cylinder, and so on. You could reach it from here, or you could go to create menu, mesh, and here are all the objects we have just seen right here. Okay, let's say we are going to add a cube. So I will click the cube icon. My cube is added right now to my perspective viewport here. And also it's added here to the list of objects at the Objects Manager. This widget is called Objects Manager. And here is my cube with its icon. But for sure it's a small icon. My object right now is selected. Why it is selected? Because it's highlighted in yellow. And also my object here in the viewport is highlighted in yellow border. If I want to deselect, I could click at any empty area in the Objects Manager, or to click at any empty area in the viewport. Let's say I'm going to click here. My object is deselected, so it is not highlighted either in the Objects Manager nor in the perspective view. Okay, let's go back and click to select the object. I could select it from here or by clicking the object itself here, like this. Okay, it's highlighted again, so I am selecting right now my cube object. I could take a look here at my Attributes Manager. Once my object is selected, its attributes will be presented here at the Attributes Manager with different tabs, starting from Basic, Coordinates, Object, and Func. The most important one is the Object tab, because all the properties of my object is represented here, and it's titled Object Properties, starting from its size and what we call segments, and also some other options as fillet. Okay, let's take a look at these numerical values. You could change the size of your object at the three different axes, X, Y, Z. By click and drag inside the box, like this, I'm changing my X-axis, Ctrl Z to make undo, or by clicking the small arrows just to modify the value of the X-axis, like this. Or you could click inside the box and type in any value, for example 50, like this. Okay, also you could use the interface here in the perspective view using the small yellow circles right here. Here at the x-axis is a circle, another circle located here at z-axis, and same at the y-axis. If I click and drag this circle at x-axis, by this I'm resizing my cube, and in turn its value will be changed here. Okay, let's go back to make it 200, to make it the same as y and z. Okay, this is fine for the object size. What about the segments? Okay, to understand the segments, I'm going to this menu, which is display, and I'm going to select the second one, which is grid shading lines. Grid shading lines. It's a very famous option to be used. Okay, I'm going to select it, and notice what will happen here at the border of my object. Okay, let's click it. Look here at the borders or the sides or corners of my object. It's highlighted in black, which represents what we call segments. Segments are divided into segments at x-axis and at y and also at z-axis. And for all, its default value is 1, which means my object has only one segment at x and only one segment at y and only one segment at z. In other words, to understand this, I'm going to change the value of my segments from 1 to 2. But first, take a look here at my object. Right here, I'm going to see only one face here. Let's change it to 2. Take a look. Right now I have a black line divided my face into 2 faces. So I have 2 segments right now. 1, 2, and also here 2 segments. And if I want to rotate around or orbit around my object, here is another 2 faces, and from the bottom also are 2 faces. So by this, my object is now divided into 2 faces or 2 segments at x-axis. What about y? Same happen here. What about z-axis? Same happen here. You could take a look at this, and please practice these options just to be sure to understand every single property. Okay, could I change, for example, segments at x-axis to 10, for example? Yes, I could click and drag like this, or click inside and type in 10 and press enter. And here is our 10 segments at the x-axis. Okay, let's change also at y, make it 10. As you can see, I'm freely changing the values. I don't have to make it all equal to each other. It depends on what we are going to do. And from here coming the question, why you are doing this? Why you are changing the segments in general? Okay, to understand this, I'm going to lower the number of items here to 2 by 2 by 2. Okay, just to make it very clear to take a look. Here I have faces. I could also select my object to move it, but instead of moving it, I'm going to filter. I'm going to hide what is called work plan. Work plan is the grid represented here in my view. So I'm going to filter and I will disable work plan. Like this, I'm only seeing my object without any work plan, which could confuse me while counting the lines representing segments of object. Okay, let's go back and to understand this. Segments, for example, make it 4 by 4 by 4. The importance of segments coming from what we call modeling. Modeling is about changing or modifying the object itself. We are not going to talk about it today, but just to understand it, take a look at what I'm going to do. By this, I selected a single face or single segment at my object, and also I could select any other one. And by this, I'm modifying my original cube to a different object like this. So segments is important only if you are going to make a modification to your object. And also segments is important to make your object much more smoother or realistic in locking. Anyway, we will talk about it later on during our future courses. Right now, I'm going to press Ctrl Z or make undo, or clicking this icon here to go undo many times to go back to my cube. Okay, let's go back here and make it just 2 by 2 by 2. If you want to disable the black lines, go again to display, and instead of selecting grid shading lines, just select the first option, which is grid shading. Okay, does it mean that my segments disappeared and they are neglected now. No, it's not neglected, because if you take a look here, the options are existing, but you only make it invisible, but it's already segmented object. Okay, let's go back and make it one by one and take a look at the second option, which is separate surfaces. It's a checkbox. This checkbox will not take any effect will not affect my object unless you converted it from what we call parametric object to non-parametric object. What does it mean? Never mind, we will explain it in the future. We have a single course about parametric versus non-parametric objects. But to understand this, I'm going to convert my object to non-parametric. Look at this. It divides my faces into separate faces. Right now I have 6 different faces. I could select any of these and drag it like this to move it. And this is the importance of that option. Okay, right now Control Z again to go back to our cube. And I'm not going to select this because I will not use it. The last option here is fillet. Fillet is about how to deal with corners or side corners of my object. For example, let's take a look. I will go much more closer by zooming in at the object, and I will check the fillet option. You could see now that my corners are much more smoother. Let's uncheck it. Can you see the difference before and after? Also, you could change the fillet radius. Fillet radius is about how the radius size is. Its default value is 3. And also, we have what we call fillet subdivision. Let's go back to display and select this option again, grad shading lines. Right now, my lines here only one at each face because I don't have any segments. But for the fillet, let's uncheck it. I have no extra lines, only a single line at each face. What about adding fillet? Right now I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. So it's 1 plus 3, 4 lines. So I have 3 subdivisions for what we call fillet. I made a drag. Sorry. Right now I have 3 subdivisions for my fillet. Number of subdivisions will represent how your corner will be smooth. Let's stay closer and change the number. It's 1. You could see now it's a straight angle. It's sharp. But if you want to smooth it, just change the number of fillet subdivisions. The higher the number, the more smoother is my corner. And for the radius, the higher the number, the more size of my radius is. That's it. Okay? So if you want to smooth your corners, just add a fillet and adjust the amount of number as you want. If you want to go back to your default values, which was 3 by 3, just go and right click this arrow. It will go to its default value like this. Or you may right click the icon itself here, the name of the parameter, and click reset to default. It's the same. Okay? If you want to hide the lines, just go to display and select the first option instead of the second one. Okay, that's fine. So right now I have a fillet. I will disable the fillet of my cube. Okay, right now we have a cube. What about other tabs? This all for the object tab. The basic tab contains a fewer options. The most important one is the name. Right now my object is called cube. I could change it to my box, for example. You could notice now the name also changed here. So the name is the title represented here, or the label of my object. And it's very important to label your objects, because by time you will have maybe not hundreds, maybe tens of cubes and spheres and so on. So naming it is very important just to distinguish between different objects. Okay, let's go back again to our basic tab. Another important parameter here is X-ray. What X-ray is? Let's suppose I have another object here. Let's add a sphere. The sphere is added, but it's located and positioned in the middle of my cube object. So it looks like a hidden object. I couldn't see it clearly. If you want to see it clearly through your cube, just go to the cube and change it to X-ray. X-ray, by this, my object is semi-transparent, and hence I am able now to identify the sphere just inside my cube. Okay, just take into consideration that X-ray is only for editing mode, and your final production scene will not be X-rayed as this. So it's just for you to be able to edit freely your objects, but it will not affect the actual transparency of objects during the final render. Okay, let's go back and remove the X-ray, and let's say I want to move the sphere or the cube to be able to see each of them separately. To do this, you could do it from here, from using the 3 axes. Just be sure that you are selecting the move tool, and here is my active tool right now, which is move tool. Or if you want to rotate, you could select the second one. My active tool right now is rotate. Or to scale it, you could change to the third icon, which is scale, and my active tool now is scale. Or to use the shortcut, and it's written at the hand. It's ERT for move, rotate, and scale. You could do it using the axes right now by clicking the axis. Here is X, Y, and Z. Okay, Control Z. This was my first way or my first option to move or to rotate or to scale my object. I have another option. Just go to my properties of my box. Let's go to the second tab, which is called coordinates. Coordinates is about making transformation for your object, either for the position, and here represented by letter P, for X, Y, Z, or rotation, and you could change the naming here, rotation order, to be X, Y, Z too. So I could rotate around X or Y or Z, or to make a scale represented by S for X or Y or Z. Let's say I want to center my object in the middle. To do that, you have to go to the origin, so I have to go to X0, Y0, and Z0. That's it. So my object is now positioned in the middle of my scene, and so my sphere is not visible because it is located inside of the cube. If I go back to my cube, to the basic, and select X-ray, I'm able now to see my sphere as my object or my cube is being transparent. But remember, this is just for editing objects and not for the final render. Okay, let's disable X-ray, and let's say I want to move the sphere. It's very easy. Just select your object and be sure that your active tool is the move tool, or press E from keyboard and just click and drag any of these axes along X or Y or Z. That's it. Let's say I want to reposition my sphere to be in the origin, which means 0, 0, 0. So just be sure that you selected your sphere, go to coordinates of your sphere, and modify the values of X, Y, Z to 0. That's it. It's very simple to do that. What if I want to move my object, for example, along X-axis for 10 centimeter? 10 centimeter. Just you could change from 0 to 10 and press enter. That's it. Okay, what about 100? Make it 100. Uh, is it possible to use equations here? Yes, you could say 100 plus 100 is 200 now. So it's very simple to use these numerical values just to make calculations, just add multiplying or subtracting or adding any numerical values. Okay, let's go back to the center by changing it back to 0 and press enter. If you want to delete the object itself, you could right click and look at the delete option here, or you could press delete from keyboard, or you could go to edit menu and click delete. By opening the edit menu, I'm able to see that I'm able to use other options just like cut, copy, and paste. Oh, that means that it's possible to make copy and paste for the object. Yes, for example, let's say I have a sphere here. I want to make a copy of it. Just Control C, Control V. Now I have another copy of my sphere, which is labeled sphere 1. My original one is called sphere, and the copy is sphere 1. If I want to move this one, just click and drag. Go to the first one and click and drag. So I have two copies of my sphere right now. Okay, what if I want to copy this one? Just Control C, Control V. I have a third copy, which is sphere 2. Click and drag to move it. I have different spheres right now. What if I want to delete all 3 spheres? It's very simple, just to click it and delete one by one, or to select multiple by click and drag to select 3 of them, or to click and hold Control from keyboard by this. Just like Windows. And then press delete from keyboard or from edit delete, and that's it. You are deleting the 3 spheres right now. Let's go back to our box, and let's say instead of using the box, I'm going to add a sphere again. Okay, let's add a sphere and let's move it to make it much more visible, or Control Z, and instead of moving the sphere, I will move the box itself. Okay, let's focus at my sphere. Why my sphere is not good in geometry? It's not well smoothed, as you can see. This is because of the options of my sphere. Let's select it and go to the most important tab, which is Object. Attributes of sphere is not too much. We have a few properties. The most important 2 properties here is radius, which representing the size of the sphere, like this. And the second one is segments. Segments represents number of lines. Could you remember this option from display? Select grad shading lines. That's it, of the sphere. So my sphere is divided into 16 segments. What if I want to change it? For sure, changing this amount will make my object much more smoother. For example, instead of 16, make it 30. I could notice now my sphere is much more smoother. What about 100? Oh, it's much more smoother because it is full of segments. That's it. But it's not usually good option to make the segment number of high number, because the more the number is of segments, the more RAM it will be consumed for rendering the object, and for sure it will be more heavier and will decrease the performance. Okay, so just use the suitable number of segments, which is fair enough for you to see your object. Okay, okay, I will go back to default. I could right click and select reset to default. That's it. The last important here is type. We have different types of spheres. The first one is a standard. We have a hemisphere. It's just half of the sphere, and as you see, all our objects are empty from inside. Okay, just to take into consideration. Hemisphere, tetrahedron, and that's it. Okay, octahedron, hexahedron, and that's it of different options here. I will go back to the standard. We will talk about the different values here, but in the future while discussing modeling in Cinema 4D. I don't want to see the lines right now, so I will go to display and select the first option instead of the second one. The first one is grad shading. As you can see, the shortcut for it is NA or NB for the lines. Okay, let's try to use it. NA, NB. That's it. Okay, so you could use a shortcut or just simply go to the menu and select the first one or the second one as you want. By this, we have finished looking at two objects of our mesh objects. Let's delete them as we are going to use or to take a look at other objects. Let's go back to our menu and select, for example, a cylinder. Cylinder, from its name, it's just a cylinder. You could control its properties here. It has radius, height, and what we call height segment and rotation segments. In order to see the segments, you have to enable this option here and changing the height or the rotation segments, simply like this. Okay, you could change the orientation of your cylinder along x-axis or y or z. For sure, minus z or plus z or minus y or plus y or minus x or plus x, it will not make a major change here. And also you could change such options just from using the yellow circles here. I'm changing the radius by this and the height. Okay, it's very easy. Okay, let's go to try another object. For example, I have plan. Plan, from its name, is just a plan, like this. It has few options like width and height, and also width and height segments. That's it. Not much. But in case you want to change the orientation for x-axis or to be in y or in z axis, that's it. Maybe you may wonder, I could change the orientation without changing this option just by going to rotation and to change the rotation around, for example, y or x or z. Yes, that's right, it's the same. And alternatively, you could even go to the coordinates of the plan object and change the rotation from here, 90 degree here. Let's change it to xyz or 90 here. That's it. It's rotated around my axis like this. Okay, that's it. Okay, let's delete the plan and go to another object. We finished the sphere, but we have a disk here. It's like a plan, but spherical plan. The object, inner radius and outer radius. Let's go closer. The inner radius, the outer radius, and disk segments, and also rotation segments to make it much more smoother, like this. You could see that I could make it just like a triangle or any other object based on the number of segments, as number of segments is affecting its smoothness, same as we saw before at sphere object. Okay, let's delete it and select the polygon. It's very simple. It's just an object like a plan with width and height and number of segments. That's it. If you want to convert it to a triangle, it's possible, or to just keep it as a polygon, or to change its orientation, it's the same. Okay, let's try to use the capsule. From its name, it's like a capsule. That's it. I could rotate around it. And from the circle here, I could change its height or its radius here. And here are they. you could notice how you could change the object properties and in turn change how it looks like. Height segments, cap segments, and rotation segments. Number of segments is affecting the shape of the object itself and for sure the orientation. Okay, let's delete the capsule and try another one, which is cone. This is a cone. Also we have the height, the bottom radius, and what we call the top radius. You could make the top radius larger than the bottom one. It is a reversed cone. And also we have the height segments and rotation segments. And for sure, number of rotation segments affect the shape of the object. Okay. Figure is like a person, but mainly figure is used for measurements reasons. For example, if I want to make a car, a model for a car, and I want to be sure that the car height in relation to a human to keep its dimensions in reality. That's it. So figure is mainly used for calibration measurements sometimes, and sometimes you could use it, but nowadays no need for this, but it's possible to make it as a moving character. But in other words, we have other options and the plugins to support in this. Anyway, this is the figure. It has a height and segments. Okay. Next one is landscape. Landscape is simulating what is called a landscape. Landscape is just like a space. It could be a desert, it could be lake, it could be mountains. That's it. Landscape. A random landscape with a lot of parameters right here. We have we don't have to store such parameters because it's all about randomization. So you could change the randomization as you want. It's about segments and segments, a number of segments controlling amount and degree of details in our objects. For example, if I'm going to lower the segments, so the number of segments decrease and also details, as you see, like this. No details at all. But if I'm going to reset it to default, I have details right now. You could change any dimensions for this. It's about the height or the width. So I have a mountain right now. I could change the roughness, more roughness or lower roughness, and so for the fine roughness. Scale. By this you could reach a different types and shapes of sea level. What about making it at sea level or not? Let's remove the lines. That's it. It's a very interesting object, to be honest, landscape. But you have to test it by yourself and to try to change the options in order to get different shapes. Okay, this is about using the landscape. Oil tank, from its name, it's the same shape as a real oil tank. We have radius, height, and also let's turn on the lines, height segments, cap segments, and for sure number of segments will affect how the object is look like, and rotation segments. Okay, and for sure orientation. Let's delete oil tank and go to the pyramid. It's a pyramid with different options for width and height, and Z axis amount, and also for the segments. This is the pyramid. It was very simple. Platonic is a random object. It's like a random object. It's like a diamond, maybe. It's like a rock, maybe. It could be used in different ways and different shapes, and we will apply it during our course many times to identify different objects and to use it many times. Tube, it's very simple. Also, you have the outer radius, the inner radius, and rotation segments, cap segments, the height. Even you could use circles here to change its options into inner radius and outer radius, height segments. That's it. Orientation, fillet. You remember fillet? We used it before with the cube object. Second one is torus. And also we have ring radius, ring segments, pipe radius, and pipe segments. Bezier, we are not going to talk about it because we have different alternatives for this, okay? So for now, I'm not going to talk about it. Maybe during some other applications. And our last one is empty polygon. It's really an empty polygon. You could add a polygon to it, but itself it's nothing. It's just an empty box. You may call it like this, or an empty space. You could fill it later on with any other object, or as a polygon, or whatever you want, okay? But for now it's nothing. Even it has no tab for the object itself. It has no properties at all, okay? I'm going to delete it. And let's say, for example, I have a cube. And also I have another cube. I want to change the position of the second one. Let's say I'm going to add a sphere. You have to practice this by yourself by adding different objects and trying to change the orientation, the position, the scale, the rotation of each of them. And what about another capsule? If I want to move this one, I could select any object to move it, or even to rotate it, or even to scale it. Like this. Okay, what if I want to hide one of these objects or many of these objects, but without deleting the object itself? I need to keep it, but just to hide it. In order to hide any object, you have circles here. The upper one is now in gray for this capsule, for example. The upper one is in gray. What if I want to make one click? It means it will be visible. Another click, it turns into red, which means it's invisible. Another click, it will retain its original color. Okay, what about this cube? 2 clicks to make it in red color, and it's hidden. I could hide this one too. Double click here, the capsule, the sphere. What about making this first cube visible? Just 1 click to retain its original color, or even to make it green, but it's better to make it in the gray color. Later on we will know the difference between gray and green, because right now we don't see any difference between these two colors. Whether it is gray or it's in green color, both of them is visible. Yes, that's right, but later on we will discuss about the difference between both of them. Okay, what about clicking the lower circle? You will not see anything here, but it only affects the visibility of objects during render, and also we will discuss about this later. Right now we have finished talking about different objects. It's very important to practice all the objects to change the parameters and even to change or transform objects using the move, rotate, and scale tools. And don't forget that shortcut from keyboard for these three icons are E for move, R for rotation, and T for scale. E-R-T. Okay, that's it. I wish you enjoyed the video. Let's practice again and again, and see you in the next video. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to activate the alert in order to receive notifications about new videos. Okay, see you guys and have a nice day. Bye bye.